In this video, we will show how to create a new module in K2 ERP using the ER Model Editor. In other words, we will not start development by manually writing code, creating files, classes, models, and database tables one by one. We will take a different approach. First, we will describe the business structure of the future module as an ER diagram, and then the system will automatically generate the foundation of the component, the tables, relationships, ORM models, and basic interface pages. This is the core idea of rapid development in K2 ERP. First, a proper data logic, then automatic generation of the technical foundation, and only after that, further development of business logic, events, validations, automations, and the user interface. First, we go to the structure designer. In K2 ERP, there are several ways to work with the database structure. One of them is the table-based designer, where you can create tables, fields, and relationships in a familiar tabular format. But there is also a graphical ER scheme, or ER diagram editor, where the structure of a future module can be drawn visually. The graphical editor is especially convenient when we are not creating just one separate table, but a complete business module that includes documents, directories, document rows, relationships with existing system entities, and external dependencies. In our example, we have prepared an ER diagram for a purchase request module. This is a demonstration module, but its logic is very close to real business tasks. The module consists of several main tables. The first table is Demo Purchase Request. It represents the document header, meaning the purchase request itself. This table may store the request number, date, supplier, responsible person, comment, status, and other document attributes. The second table is Demo Purchase Row. These are the document rows. This table will store the items of the request, nomenclature, unit of measurement, quantity, price, amount, and other data related to a specific product or service in the request. The third table is Demo Suppliers. This is the supplier directory. In this directory, we can store the supplier name, contact details, comments, and other information needed for working with purchases. In K2 ERP, for database tables, we can immediately define the type of entity they correspond to according to the business logic. This is important because the system does not simply create tables. It understands what role each table should play in the future module. For example, the Demo Purchase Request table is a document. Therefore, for this table, we select the entity type Document. This means that the system will treat it as the main document table, which can be worked with through the corresponding interface. The Demo Purchase Row table represents the document rows. In other words, this is a related table that depends on the document header. One document can have many rows. That is why we see a relationship between Demo Purchase Request and Demo Purchase Row on the diagram. The Demo Suppliers table is a supplier directory. It also has a relationship with the document, because in a purchase request, we can select a supplier from this directory. In addition to the module's own tables, we can use existing tables from the K2 ERP system. This is a very important point. The system already contains a large number of basic directories and service entities, nomenclature, units of measurement, users, organizations, counterparties, warehouses, currencies, and other objects. For example, in our purchase request, the document rows must contain nomenclature. We do not create a new nomenclature table from scratch because it already exists in the system. A developer or analyst can check which exact table corresponds to nomenclature. In this case, it is K2 nomenclature. That is why we add a relationship between the document rows and the nomenclature table. This will allow us, in the future, to select a product or service directly from the existing system directory. In the same way, we add a relationship with units of measurement. So, in a document row, it will be possible to select not only the product name, but also the unit of measurement, pieces, kilograms, meters, liters, or other values that already exist in the system. In this way, we are not creating an isolated table, but a proper business structure that is immediately integrated with the existing logic of K2 ERP. When the structure is correct, well thought out, and logical, the rapid development system in K2 ERP allows us to move very quickly from an idea to a working module. This is not just no code in the form of pretty buttons. This is model-driven development, where the foundation is the data structure, relationships, entity types, and business logic. Next, we check which tables must be created. In our example, the system should create the tables Demo Purchase Request, Demo Purchase Row, and Demo Suppliers. If some tables already exist in the system, they will not be created again, but the corresponding relationships can be created or reused. Before generating the component, it is recommended to check whether such tables already exist in the database. This helps avoid conflicts and ensures that we are really creating a new structure. In our case, we can see that the required tables do not exist yet. We can also review the project structure and see which components are already present in the system. In our example, we are working with the K2 site project and are now creating a new component for demonstrating a purchase request. The next important step is service fields, also known as template fields. In K2 ERP, standard service fields are used for most tables. For example, active, comment, create user, update user, source name, creation date, update date, and other fields. They are needed for the normal operation of the system, change history, filtering, logging, integrations, and service logic. For example, the active field is used to mark a record as active or inactive. In many cases, a record is not physically deleted from the database, but is simply marked as inactive. This is important for history, audit, and data security. We can see that some tables already have the required fields, but the Demo Purchase Request table does not have them yet. So we select this table, make it active, and on the toolbar, we click the Service Fields button. After that, the system adds the standard set of fields to the selected table. This saves a lot of time. The developer does not need to manually add the same service fields every time, check their names, data types, and repeat the same routine again and again. The system does it automatically. When the structure is approved, the relationships are checked, the entity types are defined, and the service fields are added. We can move on to creating the component. To do this, we click the Create Component button. The system opens a form where we need to specify the system name of the component and its human-readable name. We set the system name as K2 Purchase Demo. This is the technical name that will be used in the project structure, files, classes, and other system objects. The human-readable name is Purchase Request Demonstration. This is how the component can be seen by a user or administrator in the system. There is also an important checkbox here, whether to create database tables or not. If we want the system not only to generate the code, but also to create the corresponding tables in the database, this checkbox must be selected. If the tables already exist, or if we want to create only the component structure without changing the database, we can leave this checkbox unchecked. In our case, we are creating a new module from scratch, so we keep database table creation enabled. The system shows that one directory and documents with rows will be created. In other words, we are essentially getting the foundation of a purchasing module, a supplier directory, a purchase request document, and the rows of this document. After checking everything, we click the button to create the component. We need to wait a little while the system performs the generation. At this moment, the component files, models, classes, basic pages, settings, relationships, and, if necessary, database tables are being created. In the future, a separate toolbar, progress bar, and more detailed display of the generation process can be added here so that the user can see exactly which stage the system is currently performing. Creating files, creating tables, generating ORM models, updating the configuration, or restarting the cache. After the generation is completed, the system automatically redirects us to the newly created component. We can see that the K2 Purchase Demo component has been successfully created. For the changes to fully take effect, we restart the project. After the restart, the system loads the new component, its routes, pages, models, and structure. Now we can see that we have a ready-made component. The main page of the component is currently empty. In the future, a dashboard can be placed here. For example, the number of purchase requests, request amounts, statuses, suppliers, recent documents, or purchasing analytics. But even without a dashboard, the system has already created basic pages for working with data. The first page is the supplier directory. We can open it and add a test record. For example, we can enter the supplier name or any other information. After saving, we can see that the data has been successfully added. The second part is the purchase request documents. We open the list of documents. It is currently empty, so we create a new document. In the document, we can see the main fields: the request number, possibly the date, supplier, comment, and other attributes. At this stage, the request number can be entered manually. In the future, automatic number generation can be added based on a specific template. For example, by date, organization, department, or document type. Below, we can see the document rows. This is where purchase request items can be added. For example, we can select the nomenclature, unit of measurement, quantity, price, and amount. We can add a test row, enter the quantity and price, and see that the structure is already working. Of course, this is not yet a fully completed purchasing business process. Events, automatic calculations, validations, statuses, approvals, access rights, and additional logic still need to be added here. But the most important part is already done. We have a ready-made module structure created from an ER model. We have tables, relationships, an interface, a basic ability to add data, a document, and document rows. If something was not created exactly as needed, the structure can be refined manually. A developer can change fields, add new relationships, correct names, extend the model, or change the display logic. But the initial foundation has already been generated automatically, and this significantly speeds up development. Now let us go to the development environment and see what the system has created at the code level. We can see that a new K2 purchase demo component has appeared. Inside it, the file structure, corresponding classes, ORM models, settings, and relationships have been created. So the system did not simply draw a diagram, it actually generated the technical foundation of the module. The ORM models contain the corresponding fields and relationships between tables. These models are applied to the database, and as a result, we get not just a picture, but real tables in Postgres. If we now go to the database and search for tables with the demo prefix, we will see that the required tables have been created. Moreover, we have already managed to add test data to one of them through the system interface. This demonstrates the full cycle of rapid development in K2 ERP, from an ER diagram to a working component, database tables, ORM models, and a basic user interface. Of course, this module is still under development. In the future, the ER model editor will be improved. It will be possible to add more automation, more templates, better structure validation, hints, relationship validation, event generation, automatic creation of forms, lists, dashboards, and typical business processes. But even now, the main idea is clear. A developer or business analyst can first describe the logic of the future module as an ER model, and then quickly receive a working technical foundation. This is especially important for ERP systems because ERP always involves a large number of entities, documents, directories, relationships, and business processes. If everything has to be created manually every time, development takes a lot of time, routine work accumulates, and the risk of errors increases. K2 ERP helps accelerate this process. The system takes over the typical technical work, while the person can focus on what matters most: correct business logic, architecture, processes, user convenience, and solution quality. In this example, we created a simple demonstration module for a purchase request. But the same principle can be used to create other components: CRM documents, warehouse operations, HR requests, production documents, learning modules, service requests, internal registers, directories, and other business objects. Let us summarize. We opened the ER model editor, prepared the structure of the future module, created tables for the purchase request, document rows, and suppliers, added relationships with existing K2 ERP directories, in particular with nomenclature and units of measurement, added service fields, generated the component, restarted the project, checked the created pages, added test data, and confirmed that the tables and ORM models were actually created in the system. This is a practical example of rapid module development in K2 ERP based on an ER model. Next, this component can be developed just like any regular system module: business logic, events, validations, approval routes, Automatic calculations, statuses, access roles, reports, dashboards, and integrations can be added. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it, and write in the comments whether this format of demonstrating rapid development in K2 ERP was useful for you.